The Reader Center is one way we in the newsroom are trying to connect with you, by highlighting your perspectives and experiences and offering insight into how we work. West Frankfort, IL. The first time I came to this small southern Illinois city, in February, the person I was here to write about, Juan Carlos Hernandez Pacheco, was nowhere to be found. He was locked up in a Missouri detention facility. Mr. Hernandez had been arrested for being undocumented, amid a national conversation over President Trump's promises to crack down on illegal immigration. So everything I learned during that visit about Mr. Hernandez just Carlos to the 8,000 residents of West Frankfort came from his neighbors here, in a community that had voted overwhelmingly for Mr. Trump. Their views on Mr. Hernandez felt like a rare chance to look at the complicated, unexpected ways that federal policy was playing out inside one town. In letters to the immigration court that could decide whether he will be deported, influential residents raved about Mr. Hernandez, someone most people in this mostly white coal mining crossroads had not realized had been living here without papers for about 20 years. West Frankfort's mayor, Tom Jordan, called him a great asset to the city who doesn't ask for anything in return. The fire chief described him as a man of great character. The recommendation that may have stuck with me most came from a resident who confided that he really did not like having many people in his life at all, but Mr. Hernandez was the rare exception, someone who was welcome at his home for dinner. This month, I returned to West Frankfort. I wanted to know what community leaders like Mayor Jordan were thinking now. And I wanted to meet Mr. Hernandez after hearing all those stories about how he always asked after people's family members by their names at the Mexican restaurant he managed, how he donated scholarships to the local high school, how he hosted fundraisers to support local police officers. Mr. Hernandez, who was released on a $3,000 bond in March on the promise he would return to court at a later date, sat at his kitchen table the other day in the trim house he shares with his wife, Elizabeth, and their 3 young sons. No, he told me, he had not read all those glowing letters about him. He was grateful and humbled when he emerged from several weeks in detention to find out about the avalanche of support. But he was also a little uncomfortable knowing that people had been ticking off stories about acts of charity that he had never meant to be public. He was stunned, he recalled, when he turned on his phone the day he was released from the detention facility. It was like, ding. 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 Emails flooded in from around the world. Supporters wrote to say that Mr. Hernandez's acts of civic responsibility over 2 decades should matter more than how he got here from Mexico. Plenty of critics wrote, too. Some said laws were laws and noted that Mr. Hernandez also had 2 drunken driving convictions from 2007. Some fellow Latinos viewed him as betraying or rejecting Mexico. But in West Frankfort, feelings about Mr.